Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am the producer of the Salty Nerd Podcast, Matthew Kadish, coming at you from beautiful, cold, wet, rainy Las Vegas, Nevada. And joining me today to talk about some things is my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with Matt Vader 74. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm here. I'm not really ready to go, but let's go. Let's do it anyway. Whatever,
Screw it. We'll do it live.
Screw it. We'll do it live.
Yeah. Nothing but professionalism here, everybody.
I'm gonna make weird noises to drive you crazy in my microphone.
Yeah, you got your loud coffee cup this morning.
My loud cup. Yep.
So for those of you who don't follow us on social media, and why aren't you following us? Vader and I have been very busy this week getting the new studio set up.
Looks great.
Thank you. We've been dealing with lots of technical issues and lighting issues and all that stuff that we've been slowly muddling through, but looks like we're going to be done by the end of the month, which is just in a couple days. So fingers crossed that everything goes according to plan. But moving on, he's here, he's queer, he's our gender neutral representation on the panel. Brian from the Popcast. How you doing, buddy?
Heyo! What's happening, brother? Good to see you.
Yeah, how does it feel to be so intersectional today?
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. I got my Terry Trek tattoo. See that?
Oh my God. I hope that's fake, dude.
It's euphoric, so it's gonna last at least a month.
Well, it's always nice to hear about your new boyfriend. No judgment. And joining us yet again, he can't seem to get enough of the Salty Saturday Morning Podcast, is author John David, author of the Morgalla Chronicles. Link in the description if you want to check out his work. How you doing, John?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Good to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, you are in Michigan, I believe. What is the weather out there like right now?
We got a little bit of snow today, just like a 3/4 of an inch, and yet people are still driving like it's 2 feet. People always go nuts in Michigan whenever it snows, and just come on, it's winter. Didn't you grow up here? So it's like everybody relearns how to drive. But it's soggy, it's cold. What are you gonna do? It's February. Somebody mentioned to me like spring is only a month away. He says, yeah, but for Michigan, spring will show up like around in May. Oh, but I do have one bit of big news is that my second book officially came out this week.
Hey, congratulations.
Oh, nice.
Thank you very much.
All right. And coming to us live from Valhalla, taking time off from the lesser live streams like Friday Night Tights, is Odin himself from OMB Reviews, celebrating Lent. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Started Lent this past Ash Wednesday, and it's been fun. I've been trying some new things with fasting and stuff like that, and so far it's been very fruitful, and very excited about it. But I'm also excited to be back once again with y'all because these are always fun, and I always look forward to these.
Can I ask what you've given up for the Big L?
No, you cannot. But basically, it's because that's the big thing too. People think it's just about giving things up, but it's also about doing extra things. So the real big change for me, at least for this one, is that I'm doing like fasting every day, like so some form of fasting every day. So trying to avoid any like main meals and using all of the typical, use water with salt in it, that kind of thing. Very small portions, and then also trying to go meatless for the entirety of Lent. But there's other things too, but I can't share those with you.
Gotcha.
Cool. You definitely didn't give up salt because he's here.
Exactly.
The saltiness flows freely. All right, let's hop into the chat and see who's with us right now. Anthony Mark, always good to see you, Anthony. Penny, Danny's mom, is here. Good to see you. Mexican Iron Man, fantastic to see you, sir. Cheery Kane is here, along with Master Shadow Dragon, Danny the Dork Knight, Gavin Blackburn, Orwell's son, Shorty Short, and Salty Scorpion. Thank you all for joining us today.
Shout out to Laura. That's Shorty Short. She's one of the mods of my channel. She's awesome.
And real quick, before we get going, we just want to give a shout out to our big contributors. So we got our $100 club members. These are all people who super chatted at least $100 in one sitting. Bob Dorsey, Scotty Dub, and the Astro Nerd Boy. Thank you all so much for your support. And Bob Dorsey is our top super chatter. I believe that he super chatted $101 to get that top spot. Then we got Joker Voice and Fluffy Panda, who are our most consistent donators, and Backyard TARDIS, who is our top super thanks. He just goes through our videos and drops super thanks left and right. We really appreciate that. And our top contributor overall is, of course, Scotty Dub. Really appreciate the support, Scotty. You are a model for everyone to follow, in my opinion.
So a scholar and a gentleman.
Yes, a scholar, a gentleman, and a scholar. So we really appreciate your guys' support. You're one of the reasons why we do this show. And in addition to just hanging out with these fantastic panel of nerds week to week and talking about stuff that no one else cares about but us, but we do appreciate that. And just to let you guys know that if you want to support the show and you like what we do here and you drop super chats throughout the course of the show, we are going to feature those. Like, we'll literally stop the conversation, we'll read them out loud, we'll address them, and we'll also put you on the ticker on the bottom of the screen just to showcase your support for the show. We really appreciate that. All right, guys, so enough with the preamble.
Let's
get right down to it.
We got some super chats.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah, I had to restart my thing because something was not jiving, so that's why I disappeared for a second. But Scotty Dub,
Hey, Scotty Dub,
$50 big.
Woo!
Go ahead, Matt.
Happy salty Saturday to all. Apologies for missing you guys live last week while spending time with my youngest in Georgia watching Quantum Mania. By the way, I thought it was a good enough film, but nothing close to how it should have been. We've been hearing all types of stuff about Quantum Mania, everything from it's like the worst Marvel movie ever made to it was a disappointment to meh. I've never heard anyone come out and be like, yeah, Quantum Mania, that was awesome.
Wakanda Forever was far worse of a movie.
Yeah, I got two things to say. Number one, you don't ever have to apologize for spending time with your family.
Yeah.
And not watching us. That's crazy. But thank you, Scott. And I don't spend money on Marvel movies anymore. I just don't think I'm gonna go to the theater and watch these things. So I'll wait till they're out on Disney Plus, which is usually about 2 weeks later, right?
Yeah, it's really quick.
I'll be watching Quantum Mania anytime now. So
yeah, Way of the Water is already out on Disney Plus. It was crazy to me.
Dude, the screenshots of MODOK have me
they're so
quite questioning the leadership over at Marvel.
Yeah, the MODOK's bad, but still, it's just story-wise, Wakanda Forever is far worse of a movie because Wakanda Forever is not just bad; it's like frustrating. It's frustrating how bad that movie is. So
same with Love and Thunder.
What's that?
Same with Love and Thunder. Like both of them, to me, I think have worse stories. But
right, the stories are bad and they're like frustrating. Like it's not just like, oh, this is a bad movie. It's more like, why is this so stupid?
Yeah,
I think Phase 4 kind of wrecked me. I think I'm done. I don't care. Don't care anymore. So yeah,
I'm
$50.
Thank you so much. Flash. That's gonna be great.
Don't care. Don't care.
I heard that that they reshot Ant-Man to make it more jokey, and that the trailers that we got leading up to the release were for like the old version of the movie, and so like when people go to see the actual theatrical release, it's a completely different movie than what the trailers led you to believe it was.
Yeah, I heard from a pretty reputable source that Scott Lang, Ant-Man himself, was supposed to die in this movie, and they just didn't have the testicles to do it, man. So they changed the ending last minute, and like a lot of things just didn't add up. Then they went back and added a bunch of jokes. It was supposed to be a more serious film with Scott being the hero, and then dying trying to stop King or whatever from getting into our Earth, but he still does. And it was supposed to be more of an Infinity War type movie, but they completely changed it up.
That actually would make a lot of sense because the beginning and end of the film both have Scott Lang walking up the street like with a inner monologue going on.
Right.
And it just seemed very weird and very kind of out of place. So it makes sense if they had shot those things after the fact to change the entire feeling of the story from beginning to end. So
in fact, that scene with the ice cream place, whatever it's called.
Baskin Robbins.
Baskin Robbins. Yeah, the scene with Baskin Robbins that
I was going to ask if there was a Baskin Robbins.
There was a Baskin Robbins
scene. Dude, Baskin Robbins should have kept some of that endorsement money because the whole movie they just got shit on. Like it was him telling everyone how horrible Baskin Robbins taste. No, but that one scene at the very end where he's having like his birthday for his kid, like that was supposed to be at the beginning of the movie, but they swapped it up to change the storyline.
But what was the line from the first Ant-Man? It's like Baskin Robbins knows everything, or
Baskin Robbins don't play.
yeah, Baskin Robbins don't play, or something about that where Baskin
They're
Robbins
still
just
getting money from it, so I imagine. So they're probably like, you know what? We're still getting Marvel money. So
I happen to really like Baskin Robbins.
me too.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
It's hard to mess up ice cream, like just as a general concept.
Yeah. I don't know how you can it's so hard to mess.
If you have sugar in it, it's like
and an ice cream cake. It's not even ice. It's not even actual cake. It's really not hard, guys.
Ice cream cake is delicious. Love that.
I agree.
All right, next Iron Man, $9.99. Shout out to all these excellent panelists. Thank you, sir.
so much.
He's
traveling. He's traveling, Mike. Drive safe and keep your eyes on the road. Okay, I know how it is. Shouldn't be super chatting and driving at the same time.
And we also want to thank Mexican Iron Man for being one of our first live signups for our YouTube memberships. If you guys didn't know, the Salty Nerd podcast YouTube channel got approved for memberships, and so we got those set up. So now you can join up here or over on our Patreon if you want to support the show and get some exclusive content perks. It's a lot of fun stuff. And Odin, Brian, I don't know if you knew this or not, but YouTube is slowly rolling out its new podcasting feature, and we at the Salty Nerd Podcast just got this morning before we went live, approved for the new podcasting feature in YouTube Studio.
Yes, and it's wild because on my smaller channel has it already. My larger channel does not. I don't understand why. And I was going to ask you about that, Matt. I want to know how that works.
I feel like I'm in Greece. Tell me more.
So basically, the way it works is you create the podcast is a playlist in YouTube essentially, and people can subscribe to that playlist. And basically, it works just like a podcasting feed on Apple Podcast or Spotify, where anytime you want to see a new episode, it updates it in the new podcast tab on YouTube, and you can just listen to a whole bunch of podcasts in a row off of these YouTube playlists. It's pretty cool.
So is it just a playlist, or is it like this? Because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like it's a
playlist
fancy,
to me, bro.
It's a fancy playlist.
It's a fancy playlist essentially. It's basically like an RSS feed for like a regular podcast, but in video form.
Okay.
But it gets special promotional features within YouTube. So.
Okay.
So
it'd be nice if they launched, remember when they used to have like that Hangouts integration and everything?
Yeah.
And it'd be nice if they were,
I never understood why they got rid of Hangouts.
Yeah.
It seemed like that was such a popular thing because before StreamYard, everyone just did Hangouts because it was
StreamYard
free.
did not exist really until they got rid of it. Yeah.
Oh, I remember the day after Google announced that they were shutting it down.
Yeah.
I found StreamYards and I told everyone in our circle about it, and then everyone started using it. And it was like it was crazy, but that was a feature that so many people used. I had no idea why they decided to.
It was that move that pushed me actually to use OBS and to find out how to stream directly from OBS instead. And so
yeah, same here. I pretty much started using every version of OBS because of that.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to change the channel here, guys, and this has nothing to do with the show, but I'm having technical difficulties. I cannot see the chat in StreamYards. And I know there's 3 more super chats over here that I cannot see or highlight.
Yeah, my chat has frozen as well.
Oh no.
So there's all the new chats I can't really see, but I'm gonna call them up on YouTube live.
I see them.
I don't know if I don't have any power because I'm seeing them.
No, it's for whatever reason our account. It might be because we're simul streaming to multiple destinations, and StreamYards is getting kind of confused. But
that could be it.
Are you saying it to Twitch too?
Yes.
Cool.
All right.
I started using that feature recently.
Are you? So you're streaming to Twitch?
Yes, we're streaming.
Are you a partner or anything like that?
No.
Okay, good.
No, we know all about the sneakiness over there, but we're streaming to Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Odyssey right now.
I'm sorry. Nice. What's the sneakiness? Because I'm a partner and I'm streaming over there too.
You're not supposed to multi-stream.
We'll
talk about it later.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, we'll get into that later. Real quick, we got Joker Voice for $5. Hail S&P. Ant-Man is going to be yet another Box office flop. Seeing Cocaine Bear later today for my birthday. Keep talking. Well, happy birthday, Joker.
Yeah, it's awesome. Happy birthday.
It's gonna be great, bro. I can't wait to see that movie.
Yeah, and then we got Scotty Dub for another $10. Thank you, Scotty. Very generous.
Scotty
Regarding
Dub!
Marvel films, Wakanda Forever is the only entry I've not seen on the big screen. And Kadish, I highly recommend the QT Video Archives podcast for you to enjoy, my good man. I'll have to check that out. Is that the Quentin Tarantino Video Archives?
Oh,
I don't know what QT stands for. And Shorty Short for $9.99. Happy Saturday. Loved your insights on The Menu, Seven Deadly Sins, etc. It is one of my favorite movies. Yes, our review of the Menu dropped last week, I believe. And this week we released our review for Brahmastra, which is the Indian Star Wars. I mean, like Bollywood Star Wars. It's literally like the hero's journey, but with Indians.
That sounds rad.
I saw part 2 had dropped this year. So I think it was part 2 that dropped this year in theaters, because I remember seeing it in the box office when I was covering it. But
I don't think part 2 is out yet.
Okay.
I think they've yet to make it.
Okay, maybe it was the first one that I was seeing instead.
Yeah, the first one, it's called Shiva. It's super long, but it is also pretty good. It's one of those films. It's a feel good, positive movie that we don't get here in the States anymore. And it was like a fun hero's journey film.
Nice.
It's essentially Star Wars.
Yeah. Shout out to Laura though, because The Menu's great, and she's a part of the giveaways channel on my Discord, and she won actually a copy of The Menu, so I know she's happy about that.
Nice.
The Menu's fantastic. I saw you guys your stream for that. It's very good.
And Joker, thank you for becoming a member of our YouTube community. Really appreciate the support, and happy birthday. We'll have to buy you a drink next time we see you.
Absolutely.
All right, so you guys ready to get to the discussion? Particularly Brian's favorite and his boyfriend's new show, Picard Season 1, Episode 2. So we got the second half of the premiere. This was called Disengage. And a lot of stuff happened this episode. Spoiler warning, if you haven't seen Star Trek Season 3 or Star Trek Picard Season 3 Episode 2 and you don't want it spoiled, we are going to be going into detail about it. So this picks up where the last one left off. Overall, pretty good episode. I felt it didn't do anything insultingly bad. I liked how the characters basically all knew that was Picard's son, Jack Crusher. They're like, do the math. That's totally your son.
Like, come on, dummy.
And then by the end of the episode, like just one look from Beverly and Picard was like, oh shit, that's my son. So like I felt like that was good. I really love seeing Shaw actually captain stuff. Like when he puts the Titan in front of that tractor beam
rad.
To save the day. I was like, yes, that is what Star Trek has been missing lately. Although I am a bit confused because I know that most of the Star Trek shows, the ships were exploratory vessels and they got into battles with ships all the time. So I'm not sure why he was like, oh, like we'd never be able to stand up to another ship in a fight. I found that kind of weird. But overall, it was a good episode. We got to see the return of Worf. A little bit too much Raffi in this episode, but I love that Ferengi guy who was from 12 Monkeys. Sneed. I kind of wish that he hadn't been killed off so quickly.
Sneed's feeding seed.
Yeah, but hopefully they'll bring that actor back in some other capacity because he's awesome. But overall, like if I gave the first episode like an 8 out of 10, I'd probably give this one a 7 out of 10. I liked how they left it off with them being pursued into the nebula. But overall, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Of course, in the previous 2 seasons, the first 2 episodes were pretty decent. So I'm still a little bit skeptical about what we're going to get. But if Brian has anything to judge this by, then this is just the beginning and it's only going to be getting better. Matt Vader 74.
Yeah.
What did you think of Episode 2, Disengage?
I wasn't as much into it as I was the first episode. I'm still entertained. Don't get me wrong. Some of it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, though. Like, first off, Jack Crusher looks like he's 30, not 20. And wouldn't he technically be more like 19 if she was gone 20 years ago and after she got pregnant and we didn't know this person existed? And
thanks for the plug, because tomorrow's video that we're putting out is about when he was born.
Yeah, because I'm trying to do the math, and this guy looks like he's at least 30 years old, and it just doesn't really it's not jiving for me. They needed somebody younger.
We
to
did
play
the math.
role.
It adds up.
No, it doesn't, Brian. Quit trying to
It
make
does.
excuses.
It does, bro. It does.
I
Nemesis
believe
to
you.
now,
Listen,
it adds
listen,
up.
I believe you, but it just doesn't. In my brain, it's not really jiving all that well. Also, I'm having a problem with why Beverly Crusher would decide to tell everybody to pound rocks and I'm going to disappear for 20 years and raise this kid without Picard knowing. It doesn't make sense to me.
That's a good
These people were like a family. So unless this gets explained, which I'm sure it does, I have a lot of questions. It doesn't make any sense for her to just F off to the other side of the galaxy and play missionary with her doctor skills.
Yeah, you're totally right.
And raise this kid without Picard's knowledge. So I hope they can explain that in a sensible way. I hope they touch on it at least. I'm sure they will. You know, I'm sitting here trying to think of things that I don't like. Oh, and Raffi. I can just absolutely do without her character at all. I do not like her character. I do not like the actress. She comes off too harsh, too rough, not Star Trek to me. But yeah, I don't know. I am being entertained. I like it, what I'm doing. I like what I'm seeing. It's a modern take on the Next Generation. But I have questions. I have some concerns, and but I'm still in. I'm still enjoying it. I think I gave last week's episode a 7. I'll go 6.5 for this week. Did I go 7 last week? I think I did 7. 6, yeah, but I can't score it that high, so I'll go right under and go 6.5 out of 10 for this episode. But I hope it gets better. I think it does. So we'll see where it goes.
All right, John David, let's hear your thoughts on the first 2 episodes of Picard because you weren't here last week.
Well, I think it's the best that we've seen the Next Generation since First Contact.
Mhm.
First Contact, I think, is their best movie, and it's just a shame that we haven't had this sort of thing. And I completely agree with Vader what he said, that these people are family. There's no why, and I'm trying to think of a possible explanation as to why Picard never found out that he's her son. To which there's no real logical explanation unless somehow you were cut off from the rest of the galaxy and there was no way that I could contact you. There's no real good explanation as to why she didn't tell him. Raffi, I agree. That's not a very good character. I think it's a solid second episode. The first one was also pretty good. And as long as I'm entertained, I'm pretty good with it. As long as I'm not lectured about anything, I'm good with that too. Let's just have some escapist fun and storytelling. And so far, the show is delivering that. I'd give it a solid, like a B, a 7 out of 10 for both episodes. So I'm pretty entertained so far.
All right, so Odin, in this episode, we get introduced to the main villain of the season, Amanda Plummer's character. I forget her name, but she reminds me a lot of the Mule from Foundation in some kind of weird way. But she does the typical kind of evil villain thing where it's like, I give you 1 hour to come up with a plan to thwart me, type thing. But what is your take on the first 2 episodes of Picard? Because you weren't here last week either when we discussed the premiere.
And I haven't watched any of them because I'm not really a Trek guy. I mentioned this in the live chat. My only knowledge of Trek is DS9. I've seen all of DS9, and then I've seen a handful of episodes of Next Gen. But other than that, that's pretty much my knowledge of in the first 2 Star Trek films. So other than that, though, I've been hearing a lot of good things about this season, but that's about all I can say about it.
Excuse me. When you say the first 2 films, do you mean like the 79 and Wrath of Khan, or?
Yeah, I mean motion picture, Star Trek motion picture. Oh, of course.
Well, I just want to make sure. I
have seen those too, but I would not consider those to be.
So you're not a Trekkie, is that what you're telling us?
I'm not a Trekkie now.
We have to find somebody else.
I've watched all of DS9. I can say that much at least.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good.
Well,
3 on is better than
maybe Brian can get his new lover to come on the show, Terry Metalis, and give us some insights.
Oh my God.
Brian, what's your take on episode 2?
It was great. So a lot of you guys' criticisms are totally valid, but I can only tell you without spoiling it that most of your criticisms are answered very favorably.
Good.
I can't say anything more than that. But I gotta say, I like this episode more than the first episode because of those Star Trek moments, like when when Shaw didn't want to go in there. Like, it's an exploratory vessel. He does not like Picard and Riker. It's very clear, and he doesn't like them for very good reason. And you find out that reason later on, but it's a very good reason. And he's sort of like acting as the audience here. Like, you guys play loose with the rules. You guys just show up. You take over my ship. You steal my shuttlecraft. And now you want me to risk this entire ship and all its occupants to go save, your leathery old asses. So he doesn't want to do it, right? Seven convincing him was great. It wasn't like, so older, the old, past New Trek, let's say Picard 1, 2, Disco, right? What they would have done was they would have cucked the captain, and 7 and 9 would have taken the ship anyways to go rescue Picard and Riker, and she would have been the hero. But instead, 7, as the first officer, goes in there, gives a rousing speech that sort of moves Shaw, and Shaw's like, God damn it, all right, let's go rescue these fucking legends, and he does it, he does play the hero because he's convinced that that's the right thing to do, and that he's given a choice as the captain, and he makes that decision. And it was really cool, that moment when it seems like all is lost and the Titan comes in, and the music choice, it was really just sort of badass. Another really cool moment that also sort of counters past New Trek is explaining to the audience why certain things don't work. Like with the transporter inhibitors. Yeah, Picard, sets them up knowing that if they can't get on the ship and they can't destroy the ship, they're going to try to transport them off. So he sets them off. And then when they need to get transported off, they got to destroy them.
Yeah.
That's great, because New Trek would have just ignored the fact that, that they put the inhibitor.
I did appreciate that. That was a really good scene. So I'm with you.
And then also the moment with his son where they didn't have to actually look at. Yeah, we all knew that was his son. I mean, dude, I knew 7 months ago. I made a video about it. That's one reason why I got to know Terry, was he saw the video. He was like, God damn you fuckers. But still, that moment though, when Picard's not buying it, but then when Beverly hits the bridge and they have that look, it was really cool. It was a really good moment.
I also love Shaw's take as soon as like Picard said he's my son. Shaw's just like, son of a bitch.
Right, yeah. Shaw is so great because at first he's like, look, if it's just a random criminal, just hand him over and let's go home, boys. But now that it's Picard's son, he's like, damn it.
I have two issues with this episode though, Brian. I'm hoping you can address them for me. The first one is, so like at a certain point, Picard is putting these transportation inhibitors around the bridge of that medical shuttle that they're on to keep the bad guys from transporting Jack off the ship. And when I could appreciate what they were doing, but I'm like, where did he even get those? Like, were they just lying around the bridge? Like where did they come from?
I don't really know what the standard issues, on those are.
Because it's not it's not like Picard showed up on the shuttle carrying a bag of those things. They just kind of came out of nowhere.
I mean, they might have been on the ship already. He might have seen a way to, he might have seen them and been like, we need to set these up. I don't really know. I don't really know what the stand, like, do they normally have them on the bridge? Is it a standard thing for like Starfleet merchant vessels to be carrying those somewhere? And him
that's
being
that's what I'm asking you, because at no point did the show set up that he like saw a bag of them somewhere and was like, oh, these could become useful, or like he just like literally, like, you go to the scene and he's just like putting these things all over the place. I'm like, where did he get those?
Yeah, I mean, they did when they came across that cache of weapons and equipment. Like Riker was gathering stuff up, so maybe it was part of that.
This is why I love hanging out with you, Matt, because you're the guy whose brain goes to where did the transporter inhibitors come from? Where I never even thought of that. I go, oh, cool, he's setting up transporter inhibitors.
Yeah.
And it's like I found him in a drawer somewhere on the bridge there. But you're the guy that like goes that instantly thinks about that kind of stuff, and I appreciate that about you, man. It's why you're special. It's why you're a special guy.
It's why you're
thank
special.
The second issue I had is when the Shrike, the bad guy ship, puts the tractor beam on, I forget the name of Jack Crusher's ship, but the
Ilios.
The Ilios, and like slingshots it towards the Titan. And like everyone's like, oh, how did they do that? And I'm like, yeah, like how did they do that? Because it seems to ignore all rules of mass and velocity in physics, that they're able to do that type of thing. Because it seems to me
Perhaps, but it was established already in TNG.
Was it established in TNG?
It was established in TNG. Yeah, Wesley Crusher turns. He's able to turn the tractor beam into a repulsor beam. In fact, in a couple episodes.
Wait. Did you say Wesley Crusher?
Yeah, Wesley Crusher. Yeah. There you go. It's established in TNG in a couple episodes where they're able to, do that. So it's not like that wasn't already an established thing that they made up.
Okay.
I mean, like love it or like it, that is classic.
Well, but everyone on the bridge was like, I've never seen that before. How did they do that? Blah blah blah. So like, I just thought that it was kind of like a weird thing. I don't know. Those were the only two issues I had with this episode. So we haven't even talked about Worf showing up. What did you guys think of Worf's appearance on?
So Worf was the Raffi's handler. Is that correct?
Yes.
The person. So that's very convenient, right? So I thought that was a little. It's like eye roll. All right, okay. So we got to get Worf in here somehow. But okay, fine. I'm okay with it. And then he had to come rescue her and use his pacifist sword skills to disembowel and decapitate everybody in the rooms, which was kind of awesome. I'm not gonna lie. It was pretty awesome. Pretty R-rated for a Star Trek show, though, right? I mean, full on cut that Ferengi's head off. I'm like, damn, it was pretty gnarly. But
that's why when everyone was saying, I can't believe Worf's a pacifist, I'm sitting there having already seen it, and I'm like, God, I can't say anything right now.
I never really believed that anyway. But yeah, that was pretty wild stuff. So yeah, good to see Worf again. Good to see Worf, 100%.
Guys, so just real quick, let the chat know we're having some technical issues with our chat, and so like we have two super chats that we need to get.
I'm gonna blink. I'm gonna reload, and then I'll pull them up.
All right, real quick, Fluffy Panda for $2. Good episode. Still not sure why Beverly kept the son secret. That is a good question.
You'll find out. You will find out.
Yes. And then we got a super chat from Astro Nerd Boy for $20. Thank you, Astro Nerd Boy. Second episode, not as good, but still very enjoyable. I agree with all the questions and issues raised. Raffi derails the show when she shows up, but Worf was awesome. I'm cautiously optimistic based on R&B, Dave, and Brian. Well, we do have a lot of very unapologetic Kurtzman criticizers coming out and saying that, hey, this is all good. It's all going to be explained. Even Gary, like Nerdrotic, like if he's on board, then it's going to be hard to kind of argue against it. Although it seems like Doomcock is still kind of spearheading that movement.
Although I've noticed Doomcock has not made a video since the premiere. I'm not sure why.
Listen, I know that this show and Kurtzman Trek and everything has its detractors, and you know what? Rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
People have been burned by Kurtzman New Trek. It sucks. Kurtzman Trek sucks. It is the worst shit I have ever seen on television. And yes, I want my expectations for season 3 were low, but you know what? Season 3 so far puts me in a happy place, and I'm happy to see these characters back on screen. and them not lecturing me about how to use pronouns properly. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. And I'm not going to get upset with people who don't like it. They have every right to be upset and not like it. And if that's your jam, then so be it. I'm not going to fight with you. I like it so far. And I just don't want my friends who don't like it to think any less of me because I do choose to enjoy this so far. If it burns me, it burns me. And I'll be completely honest at the end. But so far, so good. So we'll see what happens.
So 2 quick questions before we move on. The first question is about like Jack and his parentage being in question. When he's transported onto the Titan, don't the transporters have like a way of like doing DNA checks to like filter out like, stuff that's not supposed to be there? So like, wouldn't they instantly know whether or be able to compare his DNA with Picard's just by transporting him on there?
Not canonically. That seems like that would be something that could be really useful to do a DNA check for every person transporting in. But canonically, that has not ever been the case. And the transporters.
They set that up in Strange New Worlds, right? Where they had the transport filters that are supposed to detect anything abnormal from the people who are transporting onto the ship.
Yeah, like diseases and whatnot, but it doesn't do a DNA check.
Well, but they have to have a baseline for the DNA to know what's not supposed to be there, right?
Maybe for existing crew members. I don't know about new people coming on board. There's probably like a list of like pathogens and things that it probably looks for. But I don't think it's not canonically. There's never been anything that says we're checking this person's DNA to see their heritage. That's never been a thing.
Okay. Second thing is, do they not, pat down prisoners before they put them in the brig anymore? It seems like Jack just like pulled that little energy spike thing out of nowhere.
Yeah, but he pulled it out of his sleeve. It wasn't like in a pocket. It wasn't. It looked like it was pretty hidden. And I thought that was a pretty cool Trek thing, by the way, he did when he was like, he asked what the power. You have to tell me the power level so I don't hurt myself. And the guy's like, God, fine, it's this, and that's what gave him the.
Listen, as somebody who in the real world watches a lot of people get patted down when they get put in a holding room, some people don't get patted down as well as other people. Just saying, sure. Jack looked like a pretty upstanding dude when he got put in the prison. So he probably didn't get the full pat down. You know what I'm saying?
Weapons, right?
Yeah. So he's like, "Oh, you're good. Go on, step in there. We'll take care of you a little while."
He pulled it out of his sleeve. I feel like that's pretty good.
I feel like he might have walked it and pulled it out of his ass. So real quick, we got another super chat from Fluffy Panda before we move on.
I can't pull it up until I have to reset every time I do that. So
all right. So Fluffy Panda for $5. Kurt's Trek was so bad, anything halfway decent is welcome. In spite of being in danger of agreeing with Brian, heaven forbid, this does feel more like
what is this guy from?
Fluffy Panda just doesn't trust you, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know how did I lose your trust, man?
What did you do?
What'd you do?
How dare you go out to dinner with people that make Star Trek television shows and get the inside
how dare you be in a loving relationship?
Better be mad at Gary too. Gary's gonna be there too.
All right. So moving on from Star Trek, let's talk about another major franchise, which is Lord of the Rings. It just came out yesterday that Warner Brothers is going to be making a whole new series of Lord of the Rings movies because they need to, otherwise they lose the movie license. But the Lord of the Rings license issue is so complicated right now because Amazon has the TV license, but they don't have the license to any of the books. It's just the appendices. And then Warner Brothers has the license to the books but the movie rights for the books. And then this other company has like the rights to like video games and ancillary stuff. So it's all over the place. But basically, Variety reported that Warner Brothers has been kind of in talks with Peter Jackson and keeping him abreast of their plans to make a whole new series of movies based in Middle Earth. So there's a little bit of controversy over whether or not this is going to be a remake of, the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, or if it's going to be an offshoot, like a spin-off thing based off of the books and all that stuff. And it's going to be in probably direct competition with Amazon's TV series.
Yeah.
But everything's so crazy. Odin, what's your take on this? Obviously, more Lord of the Rings is always good, unless the people making them have no idea what they're doing, like with Rings of Power. But if Peter Jackson and the throuple from the original Lord of the Rings creation is involved, Jackson's wife and Philippa Boyan, I believe her name is, if they come on board and shepherd these movies, they could be good. So what's your take on this?
I mean, honestly, it just seems like the death throes of a dying corporation, dying company, because I look to Warner Brothers and I think to myself how much money they have lost, especially since the time of the pandemic. Like, they have just not really had any major hits. All their films, like all their really big films, have either barely broken even or have lost tons of money. I know that they're losing stuff. I think they're still losing money on some of the other fronts that they are in charge of right now. And so I looked at this and I think to myself, they're desperate because they know how much money Lord of the Rings made. But then my mind immediately goes back to saying, even if they were able to get the original trio back and get them involved, okay, The Hobbit happened. And The Hobbit became a trilogy, and they were just not good films. And it's just night and day between those films and what we got in Lord of the Rings. So are we going to be getting, old school Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings, or are we going to be getting the newer, focused and obsessed with CGI, focused and obsessed with high frame rate nonsense? I don't know. And so that's why, to me, I would love for us to get more of the world of Tolkien on screen. But I don't think necessarily just because he is involved or he's at least being consulted is necessarily the best sign of things to come. I don't think they're going to, I obviously don't think they're going to reboot the entire Lord of the Rings. If anything, they would probably benefit better for rebooting The Hobbit and doing it better, but I don't think they're going to do that either. I think that they're definitely going to go more so into the route of talking about things and stories that have not been told. But whether they're going to be good or not is really going to ultimately come down to who they get behind it and how much involvement Peter Jackson is and what kind of involvement he has.
Well, I personally would like to see a spinoff for Jeff. I think that would make a great movie trilogy.
You stole my joke.
But does Amazon own Jeff now?
That's a question.
Yeah, I think Amazon really actually screwed it up for Warner Bros. A lot of normies don't know the difference between studios or whatever. They just know the last thing they saw sucked.
Now, what would be amazing is if they somehow did a story around the same time that Rings of Power does it, but does it so much better. That'd be
a huge FU to Amazon. Wouldn't it?
It also wouldn't be hard.
I have a few ideas of things that I'd like to see. I'd like to see Smeagol, the younger years. I'd like to see the adventures of Smaug before he takes over Dwarf Mountain or whatever it's called. I want to see
the Lonely Mountain,
or the Lonely Mountain Chronicles. That would be kind of cool. A lot of dwarf movies coming out with a lot of dwarf stuff.
You just want the origins of the Misty Mountain song. That's what you want.
Sure. There's all kinds of stuff we can do.
Mountain.
Give me a streaming show about goblins and orcs.
Well, they can't do any shows here.
Why?
Because Amazon owns the TV rights.
So we're not going to get no Gandalf and Saruman.
So Warner Brothers only has movie rights. They can only make movies.
Does TV rights include like a special series, like a limited run series too?
I think, from what I understand, and I could be wrong about this, but Amazon's whole thing is kind of weird because they can't make more, TV shows that are longer than 8 episodes. From what I understand, and they only have the rights to the appendices of the books, so it's not even the Silmarillion. It's just like the little things in the back of the books, and it's very bizarre how these things are structured. Real quick, we got another super chat from Fluffy Panda for $5. Really, more remakes? But if they do, hope they copy the cartoon trilogy. I want to hear the epic songs they had, like Frodo and the Nine Fingers. But still,
Frodo and the Nine Fingers and the Ring of Doom. Yeah,
I love the Hobbit animated one.
John David, you are an author.
Mhm.
What's your take on this? Do we need more Lord of the Rings movies?
Well, it just goes to show that they're only going back to, as Brian pointed out, the normies. They know Lord of the Rings, and just they're very wary about doing anything new. And the downside being is that um, who's going to go see a Lord of the Rings movie? Is going to be the hardcore fans primarily, and some of the normies. Because I think I knew one girl who was not a Lord of the Rings fan. She's like, yeah, my family took me. We all wanted to go see it. And then I know by the second hour, I'm like, when is this over? What, 3 hours?
Yeah,
3 hours?
that's
I think
true.
a lot of normies are going to be like, hey, weren't those movies 3 hours? Even the Hobbit movies, those things were like 3 hours. I'm not going to go see a 3 hour film.
Yeah, they're even longer now on Netflix. You can get the
Yeah,
super
like 6
extra.
hours. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
but the
and
hardcore fans will eat that up.
Yeah, what's funny is I remember when Fellowship of the Ring came out in theaters, and people were like, "That the movie didn't have an ending." I thought, what was up with that? And nobody knew it was going to be a trilogy, or at least the normies didn't.
Mm.
All right,
Yeah.
Brian, what's your take on this? Do you think Warner Brothers is smart for actually coming up with a whole new series of stuff set in Middle Earth?
Well, I mean, the easiest way to pad your investment money, get some extra dollars in the door, is to announce, hey, we're gonna revisit, our $1 trillion franchises for sure. I mean, it makes complete sense to me. Think about it, like if you take over a studio that is failing but has all these insane IPs that are so coveted and so loved, the easiest thing is not to actually make the IPs. It's just to announce you're going to make the IPs. Instant stock jump, instant evaluation jump, and then maybe you get the money you need to actually start the process, which is why that's my argument for why James Gunn was so was probably encouraged to be announcing all the stuff with Superman Legacy and all the DC stuff, was because they need the good word. They need like the word of mouth going around that everything this is working out. So yeah, let's announce Lord of the Rings. They don't actually have to create it. They can just announce it, start pre-production, watch the money come in, get investment dollars for their new Lord of the Rings movies, and then they have years to actually fulfill that promise, if any. How many things do studios announce that never actually happen? Remember the Dark Universe? Anyone else remember that? Hey, I was looking forward to the Dark Universe. What happened?
That Kurtzman happened.
Most
he
of
made the Mummy.
Most of the Lucasfilm schedule.
Right,
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So many things. Like, think about this though. People were super excited about those prospects.
No, they weren't. Really?
I mean, yeah, a lot of people were very interested in where that can go. I think they probably got more people to watch their stupid monster movies, even considering that, oh, this might be another franchise thing.
Well, the Monsterverse stuff I actually was looking forward to.
Right.
So yeah.
So it probably padded their numbers. It probably made their shareholders happy for a time, and then it didn't happen because the initial movies didn't pan out. But let's say one Lord of the Rings movie. Let's say, oh, we're announcing 3 new Lord of the Rings movies. I mean, even if the first one sucks, it's still gonna make money on paper. It's like you make let's say Star Wars Episode 7 sucked. Even if it was the worst Star Wars movie ever made, it was still going to make a ton of money because it still has a massive following behind it, and it's been a long time since we've gotten a Lord of the Rings movie.
Right.
So it's a win. It's a win-win just to make this announcement.
All right, Matt Bader, I saw on Twitter earlier that there was a little bit of controversy because there were these rumors flying around that Warner Brothers announced that this was going to be a new inclusive cast for these new movies. Even
of course it is.
Even though there's no source for that. I think people are just kind of like trolling the announcement, getting people fired up for it. But it is a valid concern. It's like in this day and age, would J.R.R. Tolkien get ruined by like, you know, creating like whole new original stuff based off of his work?
Well, you know, why do you give me these questions? I can't answer these questions without getting the channel canceled. You know,
I mean, are we going to get Don Limanor again?
Probably, if it makes sense. I don't know.
Gay dwarfs?
Yeah,
gender non-conforming dwarfs?
I don't know, man. I feel like this is something to say with the Roald Dahl topics about changing stuff, but just they need to just make these movies, and they need to stay true to the stories and the DNA of these books. You know, I don't know. I have a hard time with the Amazon inclusivity stuff, because it just I look at those shows and it doesn't make any sense to me about the casting and stuff. You know, so I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to do that. I mean, I guess they have to if they want to win awards now with the new rules for the Oscars and everything. Everything has to be half of this and 30% that and 12% this, and we have to have so many things in the pre-production, and half the cast has to be from Mexico or something. So I don't know, dude. It's just I don't know. Maybe if they make these in New Zealand, maybe the rules will be different. I have no idea. You're asking the wrong guy for these kind of questions.
Maybe stop worrying about the award shows.
I know, right?
Shows don't matter anyway.
Nobody watches them.
No one watches them. No one cares. At what point are people going to figure out, like these studios going to figure out that the award shows don't matter? They just don't matter at all.
Well, they matter within the industry, but I'm wondering how soon do we get like a baby Balrog or some other like marketing ploy that they can sell plushies of.
A plushie Balrog and a plushie baby Smog would be awesome. I'd buy those.
I'd buy the shit out of those.
I'd put them right back here, here on the wall or something.
You just proved my point, Vader. It's like how long until that becomes a thing?
I have no fewer than 3 Baby Yodas up on my wall, including one that's this big, and I'm not even joking. Can't see it, but it's there. It's right up. It's right up here behind these things. All those things cover up a giant Baby Yoda. Right there.
Balrogs aren't bad. They're just misunderstood.
That's right.
They're misunderstood.
Just misunderstood demons. No big deal.
They're just misunderstood demons.
All right, guys. Speaking of diversity and inclusion, let's move on to our next topic, which is Roald Dahl, the legendary children's author who created such classics as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, The Witches. He is getting rewritten, and this is stuff that basically 1984 warned us about, right? George Orwell basically said like this was going to happen, and basically the publisher and the trust that kind of oversees Dahl's stuff have been colluding to change non-inclusive or offensive words in his books. So like for instance, instead of men, they're changing it to people. Instead of fat, they're changing it to enormous, and even parts where like they're even adding stuff to the text where in The Witches, when it talks about how all the witches are bald and have to wear wigs, they actually put in there let's see if I can find the quote here.
There are plenty of other reasons why women might wear wigs, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that.
And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. And so like basically in facing this this criticism that they're actually changing a deceased author's work, it's not like they're giving alternate additions to the stuff. They're going in and changing it. The publisher has said like, okay, well, we're going to publish. We're also going to continue to publish like the original versions in addition to the new ones, and you can just choose which one you prefer. But even that is just like such a slippery slope. Now, John, you're an author. We've both published books. This is the type of thing that should be scaring the crap out of us, because where does it stop, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if they had their way, I'm sure they would take it even further. There are some people who wouldn't want stuff like Roald Dahl's work to even be published. But somebody, I got into an argument with someone. They're saying, says, no, it's not censoring, it's editing, and it happens all the time with publishers and all that. To which, with one gigantic difference, if somebody wants to edit an author's work, they don't. The publisher just doesn't go right out and do it. By the way, we're changing this. That's not the agreement we had. You want to edit my work? Let's sit down. Let's discuss it. We don't like this language here, or something like that. Can you explain why you use this terminology instead of this terminology, or something like that? To which they're changing the work of someone who is no longer here. Someone, and I'm going to use their phraseology here, cannot give consent. Roald Dahl is gone. He is dead. He cannot give consent to you changing his work. And they are walking it back, but because of the backlash, which is a wise thing to do, because, people are getting really pissed off about this. Yeah, people are getting really pissed off about this because it's creepy. Come right out and say it. It is creepy. Orwellian. There's a reason why we coined the phrase Orwellian, because that's precisely what this is. You want to change someone's work, you got to consult with them. Oh, you can't consult with him, then you don't change his work. I mean, right. It is a slippery slope, hands down. And I suppose maybe some people had the best intentions, but they're not just deleting. I mean, when James and the Giant Peach, they're completely removing a couple of lines describing James's evil aunts, and they're reworking them. Somebody else wrote something new to put there, and just wow. I mean, there's no other way to describe that.
Yeah, Brian, the publisher and the Dahl estate managers basically came out and tried to justify this by saying, like, hey, we want children to, not hate, like we want to teach tolerance and acceptance and all this other stuff. But everyone on this panel grew up reading Roald Dahl stuff, right?
Right.
We turned out pretty good, I think. So the question here is like, is this really, going to affect children? Or one of the things I loved about Dahl's stuff growing up is like his biting satire. Like he made fun of everyone. Like everyone came off bad, essentially. And it's like trying to rewrite history like this, like change beloved children's stories to suit a quote unquote modern sensibility, just seems like such a bad idea. What's your take on this?
No, yeah, I completely agree. I think we turned out okay for the most part. And also a big part of the writing is sort of realistic depiction of people and their flaws and reactions to those flaws. And like, this is real life. So not just there's a fantasy aspect of it for sure, but also the realistic depiction of the characters and reactions to those characters. That's reality. In reality, there's going to be pushback when you make bad decisions. There might be some criticism of your appearance or your weight or whatever. Even if you don't make bad decisions, let's just say you were born that way. This is facts. Their reaction to those facts in real life and the reaction of the audience is reality. That's part of preparation for your life. If we start stripping out every single thing that could be offensive or could turn people or could turn kids into bad people or whatever, we start stripping out all these things, then what's the point of reading literature and consuming media that is talking about reality if you can't go forward in life and learn about that reality? We cannot sterilize everything. Like no. The world is a dirty place. Like it's dirty and there's problems and there's issues. That if we sterilize everything, then when kids actually do get to adulthood, hopefully, they aren't prepared at all for how the actual world is going to work. Like you cannot sterilize youth and expect them to survive adulthood. You just can't.
Yeah, Odin, this does bring up the question of censorship, because like this isn't just adjusting the text or like whatever, that this is changing the text. And it presents like an odd moral question here where it's like, where does this end? Like, does this mean that they can go in and change like plot points eventually? Can they change like entire chapters? What if this starts spreading out to other stuff? Like, for instance, could you imagine someone changing the wording of the Bible to update it for quote unquote modern sensibilities? Like where does this end?
I don't think they have.
I best say I'm pretty sure that's already happened, because Bible translations are just, I mean, there's thousands of them, and I just know that there are definitely translations out there that use very muted wording in different points, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's already a version where it's like taking things out and all that other stuff.
Right? Yeah, there's a version where they've sterilized like all the things that.
All right,
that
we've just
are
taken
supposed
all
to
of
teach
Leviticus out, and
you. Oh yeah, you got to take a lot of Deuteronomy. Yeah, let's just take out like a half of the Old Testament right away.
Yeah, or the entirety of the Old Testament.
And David and the whole Bathsheba thing, that's super problematic. Let's tone that down.
But it's a slippery slope, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
he killed the woman's husband. We cannot have that. No one can be reading about
murder.
That
we can't have murder in there.
Yeah, but I mean, changing it like Adam and Eve to gender non-binary. Like there's no such thing as God created them. That's kind of like where this is pointing, right?
Well, it's kind of already happened too. I mean, whether it's in the actual like text itself, again, this goes back to translations. I mean, there are quote unquote theologians today that try to argue that that Christ was non-binary. Like there are people who actually try to argue that point, and it's just mind numbing.
Oh my
but
God,
no,
if I heard that in real time, my brain would just explode with anger.
Oh yeah. And that's why all of this is so troubling, is because it is just a part of this slippery slope. Because I remember it wasn't too long ago, or maybe it was, and it just doesn't seem like it's been that long ago, when they were going after books like To Kill a Mockingbird, right? Saying, oh, there's really offensive words in there, and so we're going to release the versions that don't have those words in, even though they help provide a very important context. And what's interesting is that all of us likely read To Kill a Mockingbird at some point growing up, going through school, or other books like it that may have had it. And what was the purpose of us reading it? Not so that we could learn the word, not so that we could become desensitized to it so we could use it in our daily life, but no, to realize, oh, there was a time when people would say these things and people thought it was okay, and look how far we've come, and look how much things have changed for the better. Like, look at how much we've improved. So by taking these books and now going into kids' books and saying that the word fat is somehow, like, because what they're saying is that it's equivalent to the N-word. Is essentially what they're doing, right? Saying, oh, well, if we have to take that out, we have to take the word fat out. We have to also take the word, little men out, and instead put little people instead to make it more inclusive. I mean, you're looking at the over-sanitization of our culture. People, as you mentioned, right, are not going to be challenged by anything. And so when they get into the real world, when they will get challenged by things, they won't be ready for it. They won't be prepared. And it's basically, where does it stop? Where is the end point? Does it come to the point where, and this is something that I've been afraid of a long time, where they start going after certain Christian denominations because of, and they already have to certain extents, because they happen to hold certain, beliefs or hold certain values, and, where does that end? And there doesn't seem to be an end in sight.
So real quick, Whiskey Jack for £2. John David throwing fact bombs over here. Fire emoji. So Whiskey Jack liked what you had to say, John. Vader, we all know that it's no secret that you don't read. So I want to ask, I want to ask you this: with the innovations in AI, where you can basically clone anyone's voice, you can deep fake, their lips and stuff like that. Like, when do we get to the point where it doesn't just stop with books, where these people start going after movies and TV shows and literally changing what characters are saying and changing the entire plots to movies to kind of line up with their ideology?
I have no idea. I wish you'd quit asking me questions that I don't have answers to. You drive me fucking crazy, man. You really do. Honest to God. Give me some stuff to do homework with before. Honestly, though, who are these people?
As Matt was asking you that, I was like, Vader's reaction is going to be, why the fuck you asked me this question?
Who are these people that are making these changes? Why are they targeting our youth? These people have no right to go in there and change these authors' works in any way whatsoever. It makes me mad. You know, I mean, they're even doing this stuff like Dr. Seuss, right? I think I heard something about about the star's belly sneeches and the moon belly sneeches are offensive because it teaches, class distinction or some nonsense. It's absolutely preposterous. I am totally against this stuff. It's censorship. It's you don't change an author's work. I guess if you and your Earthman Jack stuff, if you decided you wanted to go back in there and change some stuff, you have that right. It's yours. But you're going to get some pushback from the fans of your book series, I bet, if you did, though. But still, it's yours. But to go in there after an author has passed away, after he's dead, and change things, little things here and there, because they don't exactly fit in with today's fringe bullshit sensibilities, is absolute nonsense. And these are fringe thoughts. These are extremist nonsense crap societal thoughts. I don't even know how to explain it. It makes me angry.
It should make you angry.
Yeah, and it should make everybody angry. These people with these agendas to change society, to conform to their nonsense ways of thinking is preposterous, and we should all be angry, and we should all be louder and fight more about this stuff.
Yeah, you're totally right, bro. It's offensive.
Nonsense. It's offensive, and
why are you trying to get everyone to think the way you think?
It's these stupid pronoun using, shaved haired, purple headed idiots that just they don't shut up. They have to get in there and infect every part of our society. And I'm just so over it. I don't care anymore. And it's just, it has to stop. And they infect every part of our world. I mean, honest to God, they're going in there and changing pronouns and things in children's books. It's insane. What are they going to do that in other books in the library?
Oh, they want to.
I can go into a bookstore and I think if I want to, I can buy a copy of Mein Kampf. Are they going to go into that and change things they don't like? I might as well just throw them all out, right? But people still have a right to read something even if somebody thinks it's offensive, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. I don't know what else to say, and I'm sorry I didn't answer your questions, Matt. But you always ask me questions I don't know the answers to. So
you asked who's doing this, right? And in the article, it points out that the publishers worked with a organization called Inclusive Minds.
There you go.
Sole job is to force in inclusivity into children's books, and this is like the organization that's like behind this push. And I think that this was probably their first real victory on that front. But there's organizations out there actively working to do this on a mass scale, not just children's books.
There should be 500 people out in the front door of that office building every single day until they quit going to work. It's nonsense.
It reminds me of the bigger societal problem, because they are doing this because they can't create. Right. They cannot create their own stories that are actually going to be successful or memorable, because their philosophy is just so devoid of anything that is substantial or has any heart to it whatsoever. You look to many of the people who are in positions of being teachers, right, who are perpetuating the same type of ideology. What can they not do? They also cannot actually create anything. No. Right. And so all they can do is try to just twist the minds of everyone around them and try to get people to buy into their nonsense. But the fact is, most people don't.
So real quick, I want to give a shout out to JT Gunn, who just gifted a Salty Nerd Podcast YouTube membership to Shorty Short. Thank you so much for doing that, JT. We really appreciate the support. All right. So speaking of inclusivity and changing things. Let's talk about rewriting history, where Pixar is basically coming out and blaming the failure of Lightyear on audiences for being stupid. So go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead, do this part, then I'll chime in.
Okay. So basically, Pete Docter, who is the top executive over at Pixar, is saying that moviegoers are to blame for Pixar's latest box office bomb, Lightyear. Well, duh, they didn't show up for it. But this article, basically, he said that they changed, instead of being the toy Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story, they went with more of a realistic sci-fi bend, and audiences got confused by that and decided not to show up for it. That's Doctor's kind of role with this. But he completely leaves out the fact that, there was a gay relationship that was very, right up front in this movie for kids. And there was also a lot of controversy with, Chris Evans coming out beforehand and calling people stupid and intolerant and all this other stuff. So there were a lot of factors that went into Buzz Lightyear not performing very well worldwide at the box office, including the controversy that Disney ran into in Florida. And there was also a video of executive producer LaToya Ravino talking about Disney's not all that secret gay agenda, where they're trying to indoctrinate children into LGBTQ kind of philosophy and stuff like that. So there was a lot of kind of controversy around the time that this movie was coming out, and parents, by and large, were like, well, I don't want to expose my kids to that. If it was just a straight up sci-fi adventure film, there probably wouldn't have been an issue to this. But because Disney and their subsidiaries seem intent on layering in propaganda into all their stuff, especially geared towards children, people are kind of tuning out. I know that Disney's last film, what was it, Strange World, also was a huge bomb, and that had like a gay lead character and stuff like that. So Vader, what do you have to say about this? Let's hear your rant.
It's really simple when you get right down to it. When you put agenda politics in your movie for kids, people aren't going to go. It's that simple. Nobody wants to see your gay relationship stuff. People need to understand that the majority of people that watch movies don't live that lifestyle. They don't want to put their kids in front of it. They don't. It's just not the way society works. And yes, I know that there is a percentage of people in the world that are gay and they want to be represented and all this kind of stuff, and that's fine. But you don't take a property like Toy Story and insert that stuff into it in like the 5th movie of the series. It's crazy to me. Why would I want to take my kids to see this movie knowing what's going to happen, knowing what they're going to put into me in this not so secret agenda that they admitted was in the movie? Why would I want to take my kids to see a movie that Chris Evans is out there spouting a bunch of trash on Twitter about how if we don't go see it, we're ignorant or something like that along that he said? No, thank you. I'm never going to take my kids to a movie like this.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. People,
and who would go?
People don't want to watch these movies. People didn't go watch that last Pixar movie that came out. It kind of bombed too, right? Because they had
harder.
That stuff came out was in this movie, and it's just, even if the movies are good and if they come out with this stuff in it, people aren't going to go watch them. They don't want to see these movies. And, they can scream and holler about how they failed because of reasons, but the real reasons that these movies fail is because they're laced with agenda-driven subject matter. And nobody wants to see those. They don't want their kids to see them. And that's just that's just human nature. If there's stuff in there, this movie we don't want to watch, we're not going to go watch it. And that's a big reason most almost everything that Disney does now underperforms or flat out fails. I can't wait for this Little Mermaid movie to come out. It's going to crash hard.
Oh yeah.
And agree with me, disagree with me. I don't really care. I'm just spouting some facts here. It's just the way it is. People don't want to see agenda-driven trash. So that's it.
Odin, you've covered this on your channel quite a bit in the sense that Hollywood's go-to tactic for failure seems to be accusing the audience of being bigots or trolls or some type of villain in this story. That like if only society were more tolerant, people would go and see these movies, which are preaching good stuff to the masses. Even though they change that when they release it in China or overseas or like what have you. Like when is Hollywood going to stop blaming its consumers for its own failures?
Lord, I hope soon. I mean, because ultimately these companies for a long time could put out anything. And if it had Marvel next to the title, if it had Disney next to the title, whatever it might have been, it would automatically make money. That is no longer happening. And so that is not just allowing them to lose money on the films, which is something that, again, you would rarely ever see from these giant companies, especially Disney. But now you're also starting to see their stock prices go down. And that is, I think, going to be ultimately what, if any change ever happens with Disney, that's the only thing that's going to impact it, is if the stock price plummets, the stockholders then say, okay, you need to fix this because we're about making money. And then they're kind of pressured and pushed out. The people that are trying to push these nonsensical things that are being pushed into the films. Because it's also, too, it's not even just the ideas themselves that are in it, because ultimately they tend to be very small parts of them, right? I mean, remember with the Star Wars, they were like, oh, there's a kiss between two women, and it's like, oh, okay. The fact that you've now like made it a big point and made it a big deal, that is what causes the bigger problem, the bigger issue, right? Is that it shows you where their priorities are. And it's not about telling you a good story. It's not about trying to give you the best story possible. It's not about trying to give you the best experience possible. It's about saying, hey, we're going to try to use this as a vehicle to push these agenda items. And ultimately, if that is how you write a movie, it's automatically, or for the very, very likely, going to be terrible. Because you're not going in with the mindset of, I'm trying to make something really good. It's, I'm trying to make something as a vehicle for something else. And it very rarely ever works out. And so my hope is that these studios start to turn around as their stock prices plummet and as stockholders start to try to hold them accountable. But unfortunately, there have just been so many people who protect this mindset and protect this philosophy that have gotten into positions of power, have gotten into positions of teaching. And so it's not everywhere. It's actually a very small group. However, they're in the right places for this kind of crap to be pushed on.
Yeah, John, so this guy's argument, Doctor's argument, was basically that audiences were just confused about the type of movie they were putting out, and that confusion kept them from going to the theater. Basically, his argument was that audiences were stupid. And we've had a lot of talk on this show in particular about, like, with the DC universe, like, we're saying, like, audiences are smart enough to not have to get an origin story for Superman or, like, stuff like that. And yet at the same time, Hollywood's is like, no, audiences are dumb. We need to handhold them and not make too drastic of changes. So, when are they going to wake up to the idea that, audiences are a little bit more sophisticated than they give them credit for?
Well, you never treat your audience like they're idiots. They, I've seen some TV shows, some movies, some books to where they treated their audience as if they're foolish. I have to explain this to you, and step by step. We don't need to see another origin story of Superman. My mom can name Superman or Superman's home planet, and she's 82. So
yeah, true that.
There's that. I would love to hear how Doctor said that. All I have is a printed quote. I'd love to see how he said it. Was he actually blaming the audience? When I first saw the trailer to Lightyear, I thought, oh, well, this is pretty interesting. I'm actually reminded, if the original Buzz Lightyear from 1995 is Adam West, Batman, here it is. We have an updated Buzz Lightyear for that's starring Michael Keaton. It's a little more gritted and a little more gritty, a little more founded in reality and all that. But it was just it was more the what the people were saying online. That's what convinced me not to see it. To which, you're already calling me names, and the movie hasn't even come out yet, and all that. Just that actually convinces that actually does the exact opposite. Chris Evans, if you just said, "Hey, we worked really hard on this film. It's going to be awesome. Go out and see it." It's a little bit of a different take of Buzz Lightyear, yeah, but the core elements of Buzz Lightyear, the heroics and the to infinity and beyond, that's still there. So hey, I think you're going to like this film. If you said something like that, then I would have been there. But
okay, so Brian, as the queer representative on the panel, are you in favor of Disney's not so secret gay agenda?
Don't you hate his questions? Aren't they the worst?
How do I even answer that? No. Yeah, the thing is, I don't have no problem with gay people. Do whatever you want to do. If you're an adult, do whatever you want to do. But also, I don't want to hear about it.
Right.
And you can do whatever you want to do, but not only do I not want to hear about it, but I also don't want my kids to know about it. I don't want my kids to be constantly inundated with any kind of sexual preference. I don't want them to be inundated with any kind of anything that is talking about adult lifestyles and adult preferences. I just don't. Yep. Regardless of what it is. People would argue, oh, well, what about when the prince kisses the princess or whatever, right? Okay. So that's pretty much basic biology, but I also don't want to see, regardless of its basic biology, I also don't want to see the kids princing the princess, and getting down with tongue. I don't want to see that either. So regardless of the sexual nature, whether it's gay, bisexual, or heterosexual, I don't want it to be depicted in shows or movies that are directed toward kids. I don't understand why that's such a hard concept. I don't want any kind of sexual information being imparted to my children whatsoever via a TV show or a movie. And it's not a bigot thing. It's not because I don't care about these people or whatever. It's literally this. No information that I do not deem as appropriate should be imparted to my kids in any way, shape, or form without my approval. So here's the craziest thing about it. You're saying that as a parent, I am not able to properly raise my children. Therefore, you must sneak this information in there so that society is better as a whole. That's how they paint themselves as the hero of their story, when in reality, they're just groomers. And either they're grooming for heterosexual advances or gay or whatever. I don't care. I see it as all the same thing. Why are you showing any kind of lifestyle choice to my kids whatsoever without my express approval? It's disrespectful. And once again, it's offensive. Because I don't have the brain power to teach my kids anything.
And then they wonder why their movies fails, because they do put that stuff in there, and parents like you say, I don't want my kids to be subjected to that.
Yeah.
We don't spend money on tickets. Sorry. They can watch it when they're 13, not 7.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah, when their brains are a little more formed and they can understand things. Okay, go for it. I'm not going to let you indoctrinate my kids when they literally can't tell the difference between a cow and a horse. I'm good. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about some news where basically the woke agenda got slapped upside the head. and that is Hogwarts Legacy. It just came out that Hogwarts Legacy is being considered to be adapted into an HBO Max original TV series because of the success of the video game. So Hogwarts Legacy came out to a lot of controversy. A lot of people were against J.K. Rowling and her comments against trans people. And so they were trying to boycott it, but the boycott didn't work. The game has been a huge hit. And it's been such a huge hit, in fact, that Warner Brothers is like, hey, why don't we actually do something with the Harry Potter IP for a change and turn it into a TV series? And this is also coming off the heels of their latest kind of like video game adaptation success, The Last of Us. So the story to Hogwarts Legacy is basically already there. They just need to translate it over into live action. And a lot of people are seeing this as yet another win for the anti-wokesters out there who are basically saying like, hey, I don't care about the agenda. I just want something that's entertaining. Odin, do you have any numbers for us in the sense that, the Harry Potter franchise seems to be like still pretty healthy. And I'm surprised that HBO Max hasn't done anything with the franchise yet.
Well, so Harry Potter, as like the name brand Harry Potter, were all very large successes. Fantastic Beasts, however, which is like that spin-off film series, has not been nearly as successful. It's just gone downhill ever since. And the last one actually just lost money because it honestly was so poorly done. And it really kind of goes back to similar things we were talking about earlier about why stories are being written. And to me, it seemed like, at least for The Secrets of Dumbledore, it seemed like, okay, the main secret that's supposedly being talked about in the film is that he's gay. And it's like, well, that's not really a secret ever since, you had J.K. Rowling put out a tweet about that years ago. But then also the whole film then exists to try to just justify that. Because even back then, people were like, okay, but there's nothing in the books to indicate that you're just kind of like, it seems like you're kind of just talking out of your rear end here. So yeah, so those films have just been very, very bad. So, but the game has been breaking a lot of records, has been selling a lot. I've been playing the game myself, and it is fantastic. There's some stuff in there too, though. I mean, because people often forget, people have, this very weird mind, especially the people on Twitter, right? They call her a TERF, right? A trans exclusionary radical feminist. So they still think that she's a radical feminist. And there's certain things that I think that absolutely you can look to. I mean, in the game itself, right? There's, granted, the game was not written by her, and she really doesn't have any direct involvement from what I can see in the game. But the game has some stuff in there that some people might conceive as being quote unquote woke, but it's very limited and very, small, in comparison. But I look to this and I think to myself, really all she ever did was make a comment about biological fact, which is not anti-trans. That's just stating a biological fact. Like, people act as if stating reality and stating fact is now somehow hateful. And that's why she's quote unquote trying to be canceled. And hey, it's worked out very well for them in this regard, right? They were trying to cancel this game. And it's so funny because she didn't direct this game. She didn't write this game. I think she's just getting residuals from it. She may have been a producer or someone who they consulted with in writing the story for the game. And so you look to that, and then the things that she actually is writing, the screenplays for Fantastic Beasts, have all been really bad. Have all been really bad and terrible and have been losing the money. Not because of any boycott, but because the films just haven't been very good. So the people who are going after her in this way have their priorities completely out of whack, which makes sense because all the things that they're perpetuating and trying to push is just downright evil.
Yep.
Brian, so there was an organized effort to really boycott this game. Misguided though it may be, do you think that when the TV series is developed, that the boycott will try to translate to that and pretty much everything Harry Potter?
I hope so. That's I mean, I don't know. The boycott not only didn't work, but it like totally backfired. And that's the wonderful thing about this. Like, let's say you fall on the sides of the trans idea, and you were like, this game, I support this boycott. You have to understand that the boycott actually made it more popular.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happened was we've talked about it before, like, trans, LGBT, they make up a tiny percentage of the online population, but
They're very noisy.
They're very noisy, very loud, right? So even though they're a tiny percentage, let's say 3 to 4 or 5%, that's a very small percentage. They're very loud and they get a lot of attention. And sometimes, most of the time, I would say that works in their favor because they are able to be so loud and so boisterous and get so much support that they can sort of control the narrative. Except for in this instance, how loud they were made it so popular that it's breaking records left and right. More people are playing the game because of the boycott than in spite of it. And that is wild. I don't know if that's showing like a shift in how us normies, like regular people, are sort of responding to like the ridiculousness of the internet. But I really hope it is. I hope it's a shift where a lot of people are just like, yeah, cry harder, you know, whine louder. I'm probably going to go and make my decisions based on what you're saying, based on what you hate versus what you like. And it's gonna. I hope that this is an actual shift into more of a libertarian thought process when it comes to free speech and censorship. And like, we're going to go and support things that we normally wouldn't have supported before because you're crying about it. I hope that becomes a thing, because then maybe like the free market of thought will shift more into that libertarian mindset of allow people to do what they're going to do. I really hope so.
John, why do you think Warner Brothers hasn't made a Harry Potter TV show yet? It seems like every other streaming service is really tapping into their IPs, like Disney Plus with Star Wars and Marvel. It seems like a no-brainer where they would pump out like some type of Harry Potter TV show because the fan base for that franchise is huge. Why haven't they done it yet?
Well, I think because they were so successful in the movies that they could do whatever the heck they want. The author is still alive. If they don't have permission to do something, they can convince her, sit her down, drive another dump truck of money up to her house, and full of money. And they were so successful with the films, and the failure of the last film, I still haven't seen it because I was bored with the Crimes of Grindelwald. I chose not to see The Secrets of Dumbledore, and because it failed so horribly, they're like, oh, well, we have to go back to the drawing board. But that's what you do when you have a failure. We have to, figure out what the heck we're going to do with this. And I think, you can have multiple shows and movies that take place in the wizarding world and in different eras, in different time periods and all that. So, they didn't have the big failure that they actually needed. They need to be brought back down to earth. And there was another article. I unfortunately lost it. I would have loved to have shared it. Is that basically stating that, the next Harry Potter film or franchise or whatever has to take place away from Hogwarts. And that was one of the things I loved about the Fantastic Beasts, the first one, was that we were moving away from Hogwarts and expanding to this huge universe, to this world of, we're seeing magic in the United States. Let's see it in other places too. And just how many things we could possibly get if we just expand on that.
Matt, you're a gamer. You've been keeping an eye on this game. The people who are against it have been coming out and saying that like the goblins are just stereotypical Jewish people, and that
they've been saying that for years.
It's
goblins.
It's completely racist and every ist under the sun. Do you see this as a win for the non-woke movement?
Oh, I absolutely do. I mean, I said in the build up to this game release, go ahead and keep posting your nonsense, because every time you do, somebody else is going to buy this game. I mean, that I haven't ever seen in this big circle of people that we kind of talk to, I've never seen so many Harry Potter or game streams of any kind of being played all at once. literally everybody on YouTube is playing Harry Potter right now. It's
everyone.
Not me, because I'm not going to spend $70 on a video game. It's against my religion. I just won't do it. But
respect.
Yeah, I mean, they poked the bear. They poked the button, man. And if you want to get a message out about something, then why don't you go ahead and just keep on protesting and boycotting? Because when 3% of the people out there boycott something, the other 97% are going to smash back at you hard. And that's exactly what happened here. And the best thing that could happen for anything Harry Potter going forward is that they keep on protesting stuff, because they're just going to keep on getting people to purchase and enjoy this stuff. So yeah.
I like how you worded that at first, though. It reminded me of the old adage, how it's like every time you hear a bell, an angel gets its wings. It's like every time you hear a ree, another copy of Hogwarts Legacy sells.
It's like there was this one thread on Twitter. I swear it probably sold 1,000 copies of it by itself. There was replies in this thing. It said, "I just bought 5 copies and I'm going to give 4 of them away."
I know, right?
It's crazy, and JK, she is a feminist, man. She's not a conservative, and she's very liberal. Oh. She just has what she believes. She's getting punished for standing up for women, right? And that's what these people think is right and correct, and they're wrong.
Wild.
They're mentally deranged lunatics who need a lot of therapy and medication.
And saying the game is offensive too is hilarious, because there's a line in the game where it's like one of the persons you meet is, "Oh, my wife," and she's a woman, and it's just like a throwaway line. And it's like, "Oh yeah, I can see why a morally conservative person would be like." But in general, it's like, oh, that's it. That's all that it is. And then there's a bartender. But even my wife, who is so outside of these culture wars, has no interest in any of this stuff. It's not even for her when she was playing the game, because that's the main reason why we got it, is because she's a huge Harry Potter book fan. She got to that part, and even she was like, "What the hell's going on with this voice?" Just like, what the heck is this?
I would love to play the game, but somebody's going to have to gift it to me on Steam or something, because I'm just not going to spend the money. But and I think my favorite thing that I've seen come out of this was somebody pushed JK just a little bit too far, and she goes, "Okay, I'm going to get my solicitor, or what is that? What they call him over there?
Yes,
your lawyer. I'm going to get my lawyer involved." And the next thing you know is these people are like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do this," and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, and the apologies started coming out of left field from these people. It was hilarious. And I hope she does do something. I hope she takes her FU money.
Yeah.
And just buries them in the court system.
Just buries them. I love that one response.
Because she can for forever. She has so much money.
Yeah, she's
that
so loaded.
These people can do anything to touch her. And she doesn't care. And more power to her.
Dude, I love that one response where someone's like, "How do you sleep at night?" And she's like, "On piles of your money."
Money.
Oh, you know what? You know that someone has made mistakes when J.K. Rowling and Steven Crowder are on the same side of an issue. Like there's something's afoot.
And the other thing is like, and it's really telling. It's like, hey. There's a bartender who has a really deep voice, but she looks like a girl in Hogsmeade, right? And everybody's like, "Yeah, so." They were trying to like make that some kind of statement, and nobody cares, because it just seems like a normal part of the game, right? And that's all we want. We don't care if these stories and things have gay or trans or whatever characters in them. Just put them in there and don't make whatever it is you're making about them.
Not to mention, it's not a kid's game. It's not a kid's game either. So it's like
crazy. Well, it's like, okay.
Also, in a world with polyjuice potions, it's like anyone can be anything. So like,
right.
Like magic is a good kind of like catch-all for everything else. All right, we got 2 more stories I want to get to before we run out of time. So I'm just going to do kind of a lightning round on these last 2 stories. But the first one is, there's a rumor that Book of Boba Fett is getting a season 2. And this comes from the extremely reputable site, Giant Frickin' Robot, where basically they have some sources saying that it looks like Disney is gearing up for production for a second season on the Book of Boba Fett, which was one of the worst received Star Wars TV shows that Lucasfilm has put out so far, considering that they've only put out like 2 or 3. But we all watched Book of Boba Fett, and we were all horrified by it up until it became Mandalorian season 2.5. But what are your guys' take on this? Does anyone really care if another season of Book of Boba Fett comes out?
First off, that article was trash. That was an absolute trash article. I mean,
travesty of writing.
It was just like, I think it was written by a chat bot or chat GPT or something. It was really, really bad. Second off, I don't care. Boba Fett, the first season, aside from a few cool scenes of him blasting, Tusken Raiders with Slave One, or what the fire spray ship? What, I don't even know what we're supposed to call it anymore. Aside from a few like cool scenes like that, Boba Fett was an absolute travesty of a series. It was awful, and I don't need to see any more. I really don't need to see any more. So I guess if it comes, we'll watch it. We'll make fun of it and see what happens. So whatever.
They did kind of end with Cobb Vanth, kind of like in the back to tank. So they might be doing something with him.
Maybe we can get the adventures of the scooter gang. I was trying to think of what
the Power Ranger scooter. Yeah,
the Power Ranger scooter gang. Yeah,
Vespa gang.
and their slow motion speed chases around
the slowest chase sequence ever. Yeah,
terrible.
That angered me when smashing through the Ralph McQuarrie piece of artwork. That was a deliberate fu to fans and fans of not only the original series but also to Ralph McQuarrie, who is awesome. And
I will say this: I did think that the high speed Vespa chase scene was way more exciting than anything that happened in Andor. So
that's not hard. That's not very difficult.
I don't know. The jailbreak in Andor was pretty good.
It was all right
when it got there. Eventually, when it got there.
Yeah, when it finally got there. Yeah,
there's actually a lot of good stuff in Andor, like the heists and
we know you like it, Matt. Okay, we understand.
We get it, bro.
Well, the real question here is like, do you think that season 2 could pull a Star Trek Picard season 3 and be really good?
No,
you never know.
Doubtful.
Depends who's in charge of it, who wrote it.
Who's in charge? That's the question.
Oh yeah, they're feeling upwards.
Well, I know that there was talk in the article about Dave Filoni having something to do with it.
Dave Filoni is a very controversial figure. You either love the guy or you hate him. So
also, this is from the article that ends with, so in the end, is Boba Fett season 2 happening? We don't know.
Yeah.
Should a Boba Fett season 2 be happening? We don't know that either. But perhaps that's something that Disney executives should ask themselves. I don't even need to read the article to say, okay, so what you've just told me is your article has no value whatsoever. because
zero value. Yeah.
Trash article. Trash.
Brian did
GFR, bro.
Yeah, Brian, didn't you do something about Fake News Friday with the Giant Frickin' Robot?
Yeah, I just dropped a clip this morning, but on the live show on Thursday, I lost my mind because Giant Frickin' Robot might be so there's 2 ways you can be fake news. There's fake news where it's like, okay, that was clickbait. Good job, guys. You got me. Haha. And then fake news where it literally enrages you because of how poorly it's written and how horrible. There was this one article from GFR where they're talking about how Shazam is on track to be the worst performing DCU movie ever.
Yeah.
In the same effing article, they list 4 movies that performed worse than what the on-track numbers were. So their headline was either someone else wrote the headline than who wrote the article, or it's just blatant lying in real time. Like, it's crazy. They go, it's only gonna make $52 million. It'll be the worst performing DC movie ever. Now let's stack this up against other DC movies, and they go, Suicide Squad made $32 million, and Birds of Prey made 25 million, and they literally list 4 other movies that performed worse than what that prediction was. It makes no sense. They're one of the worst. They are so good at gaming the Google algorithm that I almost respect their skill in that area. But man, if they just had better writers and like reasonable stories, they'd be killing it. But really, all they are now are just a way for us to dunk on bad writing.
My favorite part of this article is this one line. Ward is quick to emphasize that none of these rumors are facts and that he actually has no idea whether the Book of Boba Fett will have a season 2, or if it does, if they are working on it now.
Jesus Christ.
That's the word. I'm writing this article, but I don't know what I'm writing or saying or talking about. So I'm just going to put some words. And
Great source. That's a great source right there.
Oh, it's the best.
It's great. Great. It's great in their articles when they say, I love this, when they go, this is an exclusive from our trusted and proven sources. And when you click on it, it just goes to a website where it has a logo, their robot logo, and it says, "Word, trust us."
My source is Doomcock.
It's the same sources as Doomcock, yeah.
It's wild, man.
We swear, Kathleen Kennedy, she's done soon. We promise. It's real this time.
It's on her way out.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Happens in 5 years. I told you, we called it.
I told you
this
five years
is what
ago.
they were talking about. Our credibility. When you click on trusted and proven sources link in their articles, this is where you go.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's
bet their
comical.
corrections page is a mile long.
And then it's like the latest confirmed exclusives. So this is their proof that they are reputable.
These
I
are our
swear to
guesses.
God,
These are our guesses that came true.
if I had more time, I would start a website that said "tiny freaking human," and all it would do is it would scrape GFR, and it would use ChatGPT to write the opposite of whatever they wrote.
That's a fantastic idea.
So if it
Yeah.
said
Well,
exclusive, whatever, it would make you put a positive spin on it or a negative spin. It would do the exact opposite and just release it as is, so that when Google came out, there'd be the GFR article, and then right underneath it, the tiny freaking human article with the opposite opinion.
Well, it's the Grace Randolph school of reporting, right?
Oh,
Where
God.
basically you just make stuff up, and if it comes true, you say, "See, I'm credible."
So I told
And
you
it-
so.
Yeah, and if it's proven to be BS, you just ignore it.
Right. Yeah,
Right,
you
like
just
it didn't happen.
act like it never happened. Right. I told you, James Gunn is very. Oh my God! Can
Let me tell you
someone with
something.
that many subscribers get a better mic? For the love of God, Grace, get a better mic, bro. They're like $40.
Do your hair once in a while.
Gee.
Get rid of your snowball
I
Yeti
am
thing.
so surprised at how successful she is and how little effort she puts in. She can't even put the effort in to buy a better microphone. Like Danny the Dork Knight has a better microphone than Grace Randolph. And that's no offense to
true.
Danny. I'm saying
That's
Danny's
true.
putting more effort in
He is.
than Grace Randolph does.
All 5 of us in this panel put in more effort than she does
Jesus.
on her setup.
I'm never going to forget that James Gunn tweet where he's like, death and taxes and Grace Randolph spits bullshit.
Oh, she did not take well to that. So I wanted to get that kind of that baseline for Giant Frickin' Robot established, because our next story comes from them as well, which is that they're reporting that the Aquaman 2 test screening, was a complete disaster. That it was so bad that people were actually walking out of the theater because it was such a dumb movie. And now Warner's is going to be doing another round of reshoots to try to fix the darn thing.
This is the Doomcock school of writing right here.
And this is according to their trusted and proven sources, according to the article. But Aquaman 2 has had a series of problems, what with like Amber Heard and all that nonsense, and being reshot multiple times, taking Michael Keaton out as Batman, putting in Ben Affleck as Batman again. Like, we just don't know what's going on with this movie. It was supposed to come out before The Flash, and now it's coming out after The Flash. There's just like, this is the cursed film, and Momoa, like, he's going off and doing other things. So like the scheduling is probably all over the place. But I wanted to get the panel's
Oh
take
my gosh.
on this. Do you think that Aquaman 2 is going to be a disaster?
I just have to get to this again. Reading the article, I love towards the end. All movies are subjected to reshoots in some capacity, which is known as the editing process. But a high-profile movie with one of the biggest stars in the world makes everyone feel a little jittery.
Jesus.
So you have a big star with a lot of money, and now you somehow are beyond, as you said, just said, all movies are subject to reshoots. People often forget that the budgets of films include money for reshoots. People may not know that, but so that's why when people say reshoots, they're like, oh, that must have ballooned the budget. It's like, not necessarily. They do usually set aside some money for reshoots because as even this, the one thing this article does get correct is that pretty much all movies at some point do some kind of reshoots or some kind of, gosh, this, I think it's going to be bad. I think the movie's going to be bad personally because I wasn't a big fan of the first one, but gosh, this article, man.
It's like, well, let me tell you something. I know a guy who took a glass and put it up to his door when there was a meeting. Okay, there was a meeting. And is this on? I can't tell if this is working. And he heard some things that are really bad about this movie coming out. It said that test screens were really terrible and people were walking out. So they have to do reshoots. Yeah, it's just
no. You have to randomly have your mic peak so loud.
Yeah.
And why is your voice cracking so much? I don't understand. You're a middle-aged woman.
I hate her. I can't stand her. She blocked me.
She's so horrible.
She blocked me long ago. So, it's just, we need Chrissy Meyer to come back on the show, do some Grace.
We'll book her as Grace Randolph.
Yeah, let's do it.
I had to look her up.
Go watch her channel. It'll ruin your day. It'll be great.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Well, when you mentioned her name, like that name sounds familiar, so I looked her up. Oh, her. She's like, so she's that lady. A lot of people use that one clip.
No, she's so popular. Like she's a meme, and I'm so confused as to why she's so popular. At least 80% of what she says is complete bullshit all the time. Her mic sucks. She's never put together her actual video is the worst. It's like a webcam from like 1997. And then she's using like OBS to like throw there's no production value. Her information's not valid. Why is she so popular? I can tell you, she was just here first. She would not be this popular in today's competition.
Well, doesn't she come from Legacy Media? Like she had like some type of legit like news job before going on to YouTube on her own, right?
So she had like built-in access.
Yeah, like she had a following already.
This turned into an anti-Grace Randolph rant. That's kind of fun. I like it.
Yeah, but do you guys think that there's any legitimacy to this claim that the test screening for Aquaman 2 was so bad people were walking out?
There's no doubt in the world that it's probably a really bad movie.
It might be, but how many of you guys live in SoCal or have? Anyone?
No.
I have.
Okay. I have lived, yeah.
All right. So test screenings are actually really common over here, right? And in fact, I know people that literally go out to certain theaters where test screeners are sitting out there waiting. And like that's like part of their night's plans. Like we're gonna get dinner and then we're gonna go wait around and smoke cigarettes until someone offers us a test screening.
That would be kind of fun.
It's an actual like strategy for 20-something-year-olds over here, and they don't gotta spend money on a movie. Dude, a lot of test screenings are not great because the movie's not finished. And that's sort of the point. And after this test screening, they get like people's opinions, right? Mm-hmm. Either they ask you publicly and you can say it publicly, or when you're on your way out, people ask you what you thought of the movie. I've been to several, double-digit test screenings, and I've never seen anyone walk out of a movie. And even if they had, you wouldn't even know that was the test screening for that movie. Like unless you're one of the ones in the movie, you don't know what the movie is. So it's like if you see people walking out, you have no idea what they're walking out of,
or what they're walking out for,
Like it's the whole thing smells like bullshit, and that's basically just knowing the most basic ins and out of how screeners work. You're not gonna know what movie they're watching, what they're walking out for, or anything unless you're one of the people in the movie itself.
All right, guys. Well, hopefully Aquaman 2 is good, and it kicks off the next phase of the DC universe under James Gunn appropriately. But until that time, I'm sure we'll have a lot to say about it. But we've covered everything that we wanted to cover today. John, was there something you wanted to say?
Yeah, actually, to touch base on what Brian said about Aquaman is that the movie isn't finished. And when you take a look at certainly the first Aquaman, all the visual effects, I wonder if people were looking at it and goes, my God, the visual effects suck. And they got up and left. If that was the reason, to which, it's not done. You got to look at the story and whatnot and the dialogue. I suppose to them, maybe seeing the special effects only partially done for an Aquaman movie might be like seeing an animated film in black and white. We haven't colored it yet. Or something like that. And people were like, no, this is dumb. I'll wait for it to be finished and then maybe I'll come back.
That's a good point, John. I saw the screener for the Wolverine, whatever, the one with the really horrible Deadpool. And it was a bad movie, but the screener I saw, dude, had no special effects. So you can literally see people walking around in like green screen costumes.
That's dumb.
And I thought it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen because all the special effects shots were filled in with like placeholders, and it was really, really bad. Now the movie ended up being bad, but my initial thought of it was, wow, this movie is horrible, entirely based on the fact that the screener wasn't done. And this was I think I was like 24, 25 when this came out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got you.
So I'm with you, guys. That's a real thing.
All right, guys, all good points. So it's time to get out of here. Real quick, Odin, any final thoughts on the topics we discussed today, and where can people find more of you?
Well, it'll be interesting to see what these numbers are for Ant-Man, because some people have been pointing out that Cocaine Bear beat it on Friday.
What? Really?
Yeah. Wow. But I will say, Saturday, that's not uncommon for films like that to lose to other films that are new. Saturday is where it's going to make up. It's still going to end up winning the weekend, but let's just say it's right now projected, even I think Deadline's covering it, to have the worst drop of any MCU film, which is kind of a common theme, right? Because first it was like Doctor Strange, I think, got that moniker, and then a couple other films it was like, oh, this is now the log. It's like, okay, so they're not moving in the right direction. But I'll be talking about that tonight on my channel, OMB Reviews. Check me out over on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, Locals, Twitter, at OMB Reviews. And thank you as always for having me on. And yeah, we'll talk box office tonight.
All right, John David, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Well, final thoughts. Let's hope for better content coming out of Hollywood, and maybe Steven Spielberg recently said that he doesn't know what he's going to do next. Hey, Steven, maybe you could adapt a new fantasy series. That's certainly a possibility. And you can find me at morgala.net and hashtag Morgala on any of the major social media.
All right, Brian, any final thoughts, and where can people find you guys?
Podcast live. You guys know all the typical haunts. And then tomorrow, assuming maybe tomorrow morning or maybe Monday morning, it depends on when Shane gets me his script. There should be a video popping up on our Prime channel that talks all about when the procreation took place for Jack Crusher, which should be really interesting.
Yeah, I want exact star dates.
You
also got something coming up on Monday, right?
Oh, thank you, Matt. I completely forgot. Yes, Raw Rant episode 3 coming out on Monday. We're gonna have Dave Cohen. He's gonna be here this time. Yeah, we did not have him last time because he fell asleep. But we're gonna do it at 2:00 this Monday to accommodate Dave and that Star Wars girl. In addition to, I think Matt, right?
Hopefully,
either Matt or Alex from Salty Nerd. So it's gonna be me, Shane, that Star Wars girl, Dave Cohen, and either Matt or Alex from Salty Nerd.
All right, cool. Matt Vader 74, any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience before we part ways? And where can people find out more about what's going on with the Salty Nerd podcast?
They can go to saltynerd.com. They can go to saltynerdvideo.com. They can go to saltynerdstore.com or lots of Salty Nerd things out there. Just saltynerd.com. Go ahead and check it out. It's all there. Yesterday we released our movie review discussion of Brahmastra Part 1, Shiva. We dipped our toes back into Bollywood, and it's a interesting little journey we're taking on in these movies. We're watching a lot of foreign made films this year, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So you can check that out on this channel. Actually, if you're watching on YouTube on this channel here, just go to our video and push play. And we got a big week coming up, Matt. We got a lot of stuff to do. So what are we doing?
Well, hopefully we'll be recording our first episode in the new studio this coming Tuesday. Knock on wood. It's still up in the air a little bit, but we're going to be covering this Korean sci-fi film called Young E that you can see on Netflix, in addition to the first John Wick movie. And we're also going to be continuing our Star Trek, the original series commentaries that we give to our club members exclusively, our patrons. So we got a lot of stuff on the plate, and with the new recording setup, with all of our fancy cameras and equipment, our hard drives only allow us to record about 4 hours of video before they go kaput. So it's going to be an interesting balancing act to see like how long our raw footage is going to be. But I want to give the people who gave us super chats this episode a big thanks. Thank you to Scotty Dub, Mexican Iron Man, Joker's Voice, Shorty Short, Fluffy Panda, the Astro Nerd Boy, and Whiskey Jack. Your support means the world to us. And thanks to JT for also gifting that sub to our new YouTube members area. If you guys want to support the channel, get some cool emojis for the chat and some exclusive content, be sure to subscribe either here on YouTube or over on Patreon.
Really quick, I want to thank JT again for hooking us up with a batch of a really cool emojis to use in our YouTube members section. We need a few more subs. I can put them all in there, but so please go ahead and hit that join button, guys. We have a really cheap $1.99 level that gets you to all those fun things. So we appreciate your support. We really do. And thank you to JT. So
yeah, and thanks to our expert panel of nerds. As always, tune in next week for more nonsense talking about all types of stuff that happens. Until then, stay salty, my friends.